Good evening. My name is Richard Cream, and I'm Chair of the Permanent Public Building Committee. Welcome to the November 4th, 2024 meeting of the committee. Under Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 20, issued March 12, 2020, and in effect until termination of the emergency, meeting of public bodies may be conducted virtually, provided that adequate access is provided to the public. On March 29th, 2023, the remote public meeting provision was extended through March 31st of 2025. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded via Zoom and will be uploaded to the town's YouTube channel for publication, later viewing, and administrative purposes. The following members of the committee are participating remotely: Stuart Chandler, Lynn Denninger, Bob Dermody, George Kent will be joining us shortly, Erwin Silverstein, and I as chair. All votes will be conducted by roll call and recorded as such in the minutes. Which brings us to the minutes of the October 7th, 2024 meeting, our last session together. The chair is aware of no comments having been made to the minutes that have been distributed to the committee. I'll ask once again if there are any comments, edits, questions regarding the minutes of the October 7th, 2024 meeting as distributed. And not hearing any comments, we will deem the minutes to have been accepted, and they will be filed accordingly. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure now to welcome Dan Gutekunst, Superintendent of Schools, who was asked to address the committee for a few minutes. Dan, welcome to the committee. It's great to have you back, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello to members of the PPBC. I will not take too much of your time, but I wanted to offer four very quick things. First of all, I would like to extend an invitation orally. I believe you've received something via email for the members of the PPBC and indeed members of the community to attend the rededication of the Emory Grover School Administration and Operation Building on Saturday, November 16th at 10 a.m. At EG. We're hoping that the weather keeps up. You'd like to have it right outside by the main entrance near the flagpole. So hoping that you'll all be able to attend, and I'm hoping that our chair may be able to offer a couple of words, if I could lean on you, Mr. Cream, for that.
Certainly.
Which brings me to my second point, and that is really to thank everybody in the PPBC for all of the work over the last few years related to the renovation of the Emory Grover building. I'm not sure if every single one of you has been able to get into the building yet. And first of all, I want to offer that you're welcome to come at any time, and certainly on November 16th. The work that was done by the designer, BH+A, our contractor, Callahan, and led by Hank Half and Ken Sargent and the PPBC is really pretty special and extraordinary, actually. The staff is thrilled with the space. It packs a lot inside that building in ways that we didn't think were possible. You should know that about 2 weeks ago, we held our first meeting up on the what we call the attic, which originally was designed as the high school's gym and dark room and a couple other meeting rooms. We held our first gathering up there with staff for the first time since 1944, which is the year it was condemned. So for the first time in 80 years, we were able to meet up there to do some planning around some of our school projects and school and student programs. And that has continued. So the building looks beautiful. We appreciate all the effort that went into it. There's still a little bit of a punch list, but we know we'll take care of that. It's just something I think the community will, once it gets to learn about the building, will be immensely proud of. It looks great from the outside. It looks wonderful from the inside. It's the most energy efficient public building in the community, and a model in so many ways. And thanks to all of you for leading that. and for Michael Grice, for example, for encouraging that. I do want to thank Deborah and Joel for working with us to really think about how we'll use that space and now making it a reality. So I just wanted to say thank you. The third thing I wanted to mention is that the PPBC, whenever you choose to have a meeting in person, I hope you can have that at the EG building. We'd like to extend that to you at any time. We'll make that happen so that you can meet there. And then lastly, I want to thank the PPBC for your leadership and your work on the Pollard project, which I know is the subject of an agenda item this evening. The MSBA this past week voted positively to have us begin feasibility. There's a lot of work ahead on a very complicated project that is going to require a lot of discussion and planning. It's different perhaps than even the Sunita Williams project, because we had a new spot for Sunita Williams while we built it, and we had students, and that won't be the case for a Pollard project. So it's going to be complicated, it's going to be time consuming, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to require the skill and wisdom of the people like all of you on the Permanent Public Building Committee. I think it's amazing that you commit so much time to the work that you do. And I will credit the work you do with having the PPBC actually vote us into feasibility. The MSBA knows that Needham delivers on its projects and typically delivers under budget, on time, and projects that the Commonwealth can be proud of and our community can be proud of. That happens because of the work of the Permanent Public Building Committee. And that does not go unnoticed. So I wanted to thank you for the work you're about to begin. I want to thank you for the work that you're concluding on EG. And I look forward to continuing to partner with you in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead. And I look forward to seeing you on November 16th. So, Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gutekunst. I want to also extend my gratitude to you, to your team, to the school committee. This project could not have really happened without the tremendous partnership and work of all of us. So I thank you very, very much for your great work. It really is a pleasure working with you and your team. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
And it would be, I think it would be our pleasure to join you at the dedication. I apologize, I'm remiss in responding to your email. I will certainly take care of that. And but thank you very much for extending the invitation. And we look forward to partnering with you on the Pollard project. So thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. With that, I'd like to convene the meeting of the SBC for the Pollard project. And for that, I'll recognize Hank to begin that section of the meeting.
Yes, thank you, Richard. I did send around a whole slew of paper to all of you. And I'll quickly summarize it because there's some important pieces of paper. As you know, we have been invited into the feasibility study phase. The funding for that was provided back in May, and the letter that we received from Mary Piketty, who happens to be a town resident, she is now the executive director of the MSBA. And she welcomed the Pollard project into the MSBA pipeline. Of course, all the caveats are there are no guarantees. There are a variety of steps that we need to go through. And on those, some of those are spelled out in the letter, but other important pieces of that feasibility study agreement include the reimbursement rate, which is around 35.4%, which is slightly higher than where we were with the Sunita Williams project. And we have the potential for increasing that reimbursement rate, utilizing some of the sustainability principles that we know will need to be incorporated into this project. And that potentially can add up to another 5% or 4%, should we qualify for those. And Barry made a great submission on the maintenance that the town does within all of its buildings. And I hope we will gain a point or two in that regard. So, but as you all recall, there are limitations in terms of cost per square foot and site improvements that will bring that reimbursement rate down to earth again. In Sunita Williams, just for those of you who were not around then, the reimbursement rate that was listed in the letter was about 34.7%, and the net at the end of the project was somewhere around 22%. But that's still 22% of a lot of money. So every percentage point helps. We will, the next step in the process is module 2, which is forming the team. And the very first step of that is to appoint the OPM, the owner's project manager. In all of Needham's projects, our department, building design and construction, has operated as the OPM. And with your concurrence, we will be applying for being the employee OPM, with myself as the director, Ken Sargent, and Catherine Copley. All three of us are MCPPO certified. But in addition to this team, we anticipate adding at least one more senior project manager to our department for this project and for some of the other ongoing projects. And we anticipate going out to advertise that early in the new year. So if any of you know people who might be appropriate candidates that you want to send our way, we know that when building maintenance and DPW went through the process, it was very difficult to find a project manager in today's economy. And gosh, we didn't have a recession, but maybe that's both a good thing and a bad thing in this instance. So we will be putting that information together. The members of the school building committee include Elisa, which I think all of you have met in one of our prior discussions, and Tamitha Bibbo, who is the principal of the school. And then there are several other non-voting members of the school building committee, which brought us into compliance. I don't think that we need a vote on this, Richard, but just confirmation that you want us to proceed for the application of owner's OPM.
I think you have that, but I'll ask the committee any comments or questions regarding the proposal. Hearing none, I think you've got your
Okay.
go forward.
Yeah, I think there's still, since having an owner's or employee OPM is not typical to their process, they're redrafting some of their forms so we can fill them in, but we're rewriting what we submitted and updating what we submitted on Sunita Williams, and Catherine has been helping on that. So we hope to be able to turn that around quickly. And then there is an OPM panel that we would have to apply to and get the actual appointment through, or blessed, if you will. And once that's done, then we can initiate the advertisement process for the designer. And the designer process, for those of you who haven't been through it, we go through an RFQ process, request for qualifications. All of that information comes in. We have a preliminary selection committee that is organized by the school building committee, and we shortlist firms for interviews. Those interviews are done with the MSBA. And then a ranking of the firms is done with the MSBA. They have about a dozen people on their side of the table, and we have 3. But they have listened, they do listen to districts in terms of preferences. But at the same time, they try to rotate and divvy up the work, I think, there are at least a dozen firms who regularly work with the MSBA. And then once we get through that, we would actually begin the process of feasibility. There are 2 stages. The first stage is PDP, or preliminary design program. That will have to look at both 6th, 7th, and 8th grade combined at the site, as well as just 7th and 8th grade at the site. And that program is a very detailed program that itemizes every single space within the building, and size and requirements for every single space within the building. One of the discussion points that we will have, and Lisa, I think you're very familiar with the theater issue. There is an existing auditorium in the building. The MSBA program only allows for a gymatorium or a cafetorium, and only allows for 1 gym. So part of this whole programming process will be an assessment as to what we keep and what we use, while at the same time there's urging from members of the community to put in a very advanced and fairly large theater. And if that is the case, then that would have to be paid for entirely by the town, with likely no participation by the MSBA, and does complicate the whole process. But I just want to put that out early as part of the discussion. And then once we get through the programming, then we would look at all the various alternative designs in the preliminary schematic report. We would be looking at both a tear down and new construction on the site. We would be looking at ad renos for both programs, 7th and 8th, as well as 6th through 8th. We would be looking to see if there's any alternate site in town. And the only alternate site that I can think of right now is the parking lot at DeFazio, which is under the jurisdiction of the school committee, and has a whole bunch of its own complications. But those would all be studies that would come out of that PSR phase, eventually coming to a recommended solution that is done in concert with the MSBA and signed off by the MSBA board. And then that would lead us into the detailed schematic and detailed cost estimate. And that detailed schematic would focus on the 1 preferred design direction, and the cost estimate would form the basis of the eventual grant that the town would get. And we would work through all of the extra incentive points, and we would also be working through the sustainability desires of the town. And we would, at very minimum, be looking at the specialized opt-in code combined with the direction from the climate action roadmap. Some of you may have, I think I sent out an invite to all of you. MSBA is sponsoring a walkthrough of an elementary school in Westwood, which is a net zero school or net zero ready school. I think it's all full now, so if you haven't signed up, I'll have to bring back any information that we gain from there, but it should be a very interesting discussion to see their challenges and how they solve those. It is a geothermal building. It's a solar ready building. I'm not sure that they have all their solar panels on there yet. So that's sort of an overview of the feasibility study. And those are the steps we go through after we form the team. Are there any questions about that? I did include a preliminary schedule with the materials that I sent out. And we are targeting a year from tomorrow, or 2 years from tomorrow, a override vote for the funding of this project. And we've got a lot of steps to go through before we get there. So hopefully we will make that goal and that deadline, but we'll see how things unfold as we go through the process. And I should also point out, it was rather unusual. The MSBA at their board meeting not only approved our project to move into feasibility stage, there was one other project from out in the Holyoke area, but there were 70 accelerated repair projects, which included roofs and window improvements and door improvements. And so they have a very, very busy schedule associated with all of those other repair projects. And in part, we're competing for their attention in moving our project forward.
Hank, do you know, are those separate buckets of money that fund those two programs?
You could find that on their website.
Okay.
Those other projects tend to be in the $1 to $5 million range, whereas we're looking at a $30 million project. So, but the reason there were 70 this time was because they postponed all accelerated repair projects during COVID when they were trying to, they had to fund projects that were already in process and running grossly over budget due to the change in the market and the escalation of costs. And so they stopped that program for a year or maybe 2 years just to catch up on funding those other projects and completing those other projects. And Dedham was moving into the next phase. Steve Popper is on their school building committee. And just so you're aware, their cost per square foot on an elementary school is in the $950 a square foot range.
Wow.
So you can see all of those costs in their on their website, and I just want to brace people for the price tag that we're looking at. So I've probably taken too long on that.
That was very helpful. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
committee, open up to the committee for any questions or comments. No, I think looks like we're good, Hank. So there's nothing else you need from us tonight in terms of a vote or anything. You're fine with our blessing to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good.
And Ken is on his way back from the Titans game.
Oh.
And so
Well said.
yeah. Oh well. So I'm going to share my screen, if I may.
Okay.
Which has the information that he sent around on Friday for the Emery Grover project. And as Dan mentioned, we are working our way down through the punch list. If you drove by the building today or yesterday, they put in the sign in the front of the building marking the site. And we have still items to complete that are noted at the top of this: the trash gates, site handrails, site signage. The main entry slate steps were put in over the weekend. And the graphic at the clock is still probably in November timeframe. And there are temporary posts that are in place next to the north portico on both sides that have the fob access and the handicapped access buttons. And those are on back order. The stainless steel posts are on back order. So those are the items that comprise the ACL. We're hoping that the trash doors and the site railings will be coming in a lot less than those two numbers. And they will need a lift to put the graphic up in place. They should be able to reach it without going onto the lawn, hopefully. I doubt that it'll be in place by the time of the rededication, but I also doubt that people will miss it. And then there is some lingering masonry credits and also work that will be accounted for in that ACL. I do have a few pictures, but maybe did everyone get a chance to come through the building at some point? Has everyone been through?
They got numbers with their pre-move-in, that final week before the move-in.
Pre-move-in.
The sign had not been, the plaque had not been installed yet by that point. So
I do have a few. Photos I can share. Can you see that?
I'm still seeing the memo.
Oh, still seeing the memo.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we get through the hold on, let me reshare. Stop share. Share. I don't want any of that stuff. Get rid of that. So that shows the front of the building with the new sign. Can you all see that?
Yes.
There are, they've renamed the conference rooms after the 5 elementary schools.
That's great.
With a separate graphic.
Yeah.
There are
So just out of curiosity, by naming the rooms after the elementary schools, anybody says that they're meeting in Mitchell, do they actually go to Mitchell School instead of this conference room?
That may have happened.
I was gonna ask, but okay.
You will neither confirm nor deny.
Um, and Mariah, who's at the front desk, is doing a great job, I think, of organizing this. Let's see what else I have here. Oh. You might see some of my grandchild next. I don't know. Let me exit this. Exit. Stop sharing. And I will go back to our agenda. Oh, let me see. I do have can you see that? No. Share. There we go.
Yep.
So that is the upstairs small conference room. You can see the trusses in place. TV is in place. This is a picture of a setup in the large conference room. There are at least 5 different setups, and there has been, gosh, I think every single chair was used for one meeting where they had this central area set up all with chairs. There was a presentation at the front, and seats on the side. Different view of the same room. The trusses are really quite distinctive, and when you're walking through the space, be sure to miss the tension rods. Different views. This is the school committee conference room, which is adjacent to the superintendent's office on the 2nd floor. There are a dozen seats or so around the table, with lovely light coming in from the east side. Sound absorptive panels can also be used for pin-up panels on the other side of the room. And then this is what was the old entryway. I think this is now called the Mitchell conference room. Seats only 8, but it's really quite a distinctive space.
Right.
There's a bench with a cushion that was fabricated by our, we'll approve that at tonight's meeting, by Needham Upholstery. And Fast Signs fabricated this whole welcome wall graphics in many languages, and the welcome sign over the welcome window, which greets you as you come up the stairs. This is the plaque that's in the front entry hall. And you can barely see it, but the new slate stairs are now in place. And they're natural slate, so there is some variation in color. That's not spilled paint, that's natural slate.
Love it.
Quick question for you, Hank. Is that given what we did the library for years ago, is there any issue at the top of the stairs coming down and not gauging the step itself?
Oh, visually?
Yeah, so if somebody's walking down the stairs, they don't actually they don't see the lip or the depth of field because of the color of the slate. But you know that what we had is at the library, the problem we've had there. I'm just wondering if now that this is in place, before it gets any problem, we just get ahead of that. But
you mean put a white strip across it?
well, I don't know if you need to put a white strip or if you have to put a black strip, or if there's even an issue. I'm just saying now that it's real.
I walked up them
today. I was in there today, and that was the first time I saw the slate. And they're gorgeous. I wish all the steps looked like that, going all the way up all the stairwells. But I didn't see an issue with that, Stuart. And I typically will.
Coming down though, it's coming down is the
Yeah,
issue.
coming down the same thing.
Sure.
I did come down, and I didn't really notice any like depth perception issues. But then again, I guess I can talk to Dan later on just to make sure if there are people that might have some issues with it, we can probably address that. If there is some depth perception issues with like, identifying the next step because of the colors being kind of similar.
Right, and you got the grilled grooves in there also from a water standpoint too, but just those are the two things that we thought we had covered in the library, but when it actually went in place, we found a problem.
Okay.
I will certainly keep track of that, and I will talk to Dan and the other residents in the building.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I suppose we could put a white sort of reflective tape, and we have done that in the schools, but we haven't done it in any of the stairways in this building.
Hank, I think those are still one thing that's still unfinished. I think is you see the grooves in the detail, but there is a raised textured glass material that goes in the script that looks like it isn't in there.
Yeah, Rosal,
I don't know if that'll
you-
help if it's a color thing.
You're kind of breaking up there.
yeah,
You don't need a nosing by code, do you, Deborah?
No,
Yeah, it's the occupants are gonna be different in the two buildings, so.
and they're based on along the edges. You can see the wood at the top and the bottom.
So we'll be able to take you through all of the spaces. I think everyone is moving in, and we still also have a punch list for the FF&E. But that is coming together as well. Let me go back to the agenda and share screen. We have, if there are any other questions, we should probably move to the voting items. And Richard, you have also the, well, maybe I should go through the change order first.
yeah, I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
So these entry posts at the north portico, those are the stainless steel permanent posts that will hold the handicap button and the fob and the touch panel. South portico pavers, that is the addition that was, let's see, room closure. The pavers are so that there's a solid landing at the south portico instead of stepping down onto grass, which is what was included in the landscape drawings. The building inspector wanted a more solid landing point, and so we'll be putting in 2x2 pavers on either side of the handrail that's there. There's some additional ceiling tile that was related to various changes. Let's see, coat hooks on the back of handicap bathrooms. And there's also a request to put coat hooks on the back of every single office door because there's no coat hooks in those various spaces. And then also some of the field IT changes that occurred as we're wrapping up the building. Oh, and these are the additional coat hooks for throughout the building. So those are the components that go together for change order number 19.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee with respect to the items that comprise change order 19? Okay. All right, well, I guess hearing them, we can come to the motion and vote. So the chair will move that the committee approve the change order from M. O'Connor Contracting as change order number 19 for the Emery Grover project in the amount of $36,817.82. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
just want to ask about the code hooks. Perhaps I'm not familiar, but that just seems like a lot of money for code hooks.
I think a number of us share that view, but perhaps Hank, you could.
Okay, well then I'm glad I asked. And I'm sure there's an explanation, so I'm curious.
It includes both. Well, they are
Purchase and install,
purchase and install.
There we
and
go.
they're nice. It's not that bad, actually.
All right, well,
Brass?
thanks. That's helpful.
And
Are they brass?
no, they're brushed stainless.
Oh, okay.
And about how many are there?
40, 50.
Yeah, okay, fine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was trying to do a little math in my head, and 40 or 50 sounds better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very good. Any other questions or comments on the change order motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George. I guess George is not on right now. Okay. Roy is not with us tonight. Erwin is not with us either. Okay. Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
thank you. And the chair votes aye. Okay. Thank you for that. Then I guess, Hank, we can proceed to the invoices regarding the Emery Grover project.
Yes, so maybe start off with M. O'Connor. It's sort of reverse order here. But it's Catherine distributed her her normal list. Might be easiest to go through that list.
Right. I'm leading off with invoice number 23 for $145,517. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice requisition for payment rather from M. O'Connor Contracting in as invoice number 23 in the amount of $145,517.06 coming out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion on the motion regarding this this invoice? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Okay, and we'll proceed then to Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, then we have a pair of invoices for BH plus A. The chair will move that the committee approve the following invoices from BH plus A. That's an invoice for September 2024 Emery Grover Services, PSS number 14 rather, in the amount of $18,333 even. And a second invoice for September 2024 Emery Grover FF&E in the amount of $2,500 for a total of $20,833.00 coming out of the architect's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion, both invoices. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. And Erwin, I see you're here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope I didn't miss you last time, last vote. Okay, we'll start.
Still
with-
passed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. We then proceed to next invoice. That's from Isaac's Moving and Storage. Actually, there's several invoices here, which I'm going to read off. There's Isaac's Moving and Storage for moving services from Hillside to the Emery Grover building. That's for $12,180.23. There's a second invoice from OcuHealth for air and water quality testing in the amount of $3,000. Next, we have an invoice from Fast Signs, actually a pair of invoices. The first is for a vinyl sign for the reception area in the amount of $1,763.69. And a second invoice from Fast Signs for vinyl signs for the conference rooms in the amount of $604.09. Finally, we have an invoice from RG Vanderweil for September 2024 commissioning services in the amount of $9,312.00 for a grand total under the miscellaneous budget of $26,860.01. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion as to all invoices.
Richard, just a quick question. Are we finished with the commissioning at this point? Has everything been done that needs to be done? Or is there still more to be done there?
I can answer that, Richard. There is still more to be done. We still have training to do with the building maintenance department. And there was a relatively short punch list. We were running into problems with some of the thermostats in various rooms, and some of them it was related to programming, and other ones the equipment was bad and had to be replaced. We are also waiting for the final report from the commissioning agent once all those changes are done, which we will then use to submit for the Mass Save rebates. And so we are targeting that, and there would potentially be 2 payments, but the second one wouldn't come in until a year from opening. Once we track all of the systems, commissioning agent may need to assist on that, and we will likely need to recommission things when we transition back to a cooling season. So all of that is still in play, but in large part, most of the commissioning is done, and things are in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
Discussion on the motion. All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. We will then come to the final batch of invoices regarding the Emery Grover project. The first is from Needham Upholstery. That's the bench cushion we just saw in the photographs for $600 out of the FF&E budget. The second actually there's a pair of invoices from Red Thread. The first is for FF&E retainage in the amount of $10,000. And the second is for the bench and sofa in the amount of $3,040.54 for a grand total of $13,640.54 coming out of the FF&E budget. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion, questions as to this motion and all invoices thereunder. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
thank you. Okay, Erwin,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And I believe, Hank, that concludes our business with Emery Grover. Perhaps as a final thought, you might, perhaps you could just tell us where we stand relative to the contingency for this project.
Yeah, we are, well, with the ACL, let me go back to, we also, as part of the package that Ken sent around, let me share again. We're in the $250,000 range in terms of remaining contingency. And that already Ken has already reallocated some of the FF&E funds to afford $200,000 for the IT fit out for the third floor room. So we should be in decent shape for finishing out. I doubt we're going to get too many additional change orders. There have been some requests for some additional for some additional furniture by a few people within the building, relatively much. Barry, you asked about the keys. The keys should be delivered within a week to 10 days. And already the fobs are in place. So we're working down any final change orders and sorting out the ACL here with M. O'Connor. But I'm anticipating we will have some funds remaining at the end of the project.
Thank you, Hank. Any questions or comments from the committee before we move on? Okay, very good. I think we can move on to our next agenda item, which is the RTU replacement at Elliott and Broadmeadow.
And I don't have any graphics for that, only to say that NV5 put together a very, very comprehensive commissioning punch list on the units and also on the programming, and that the enterprise and E&E are working through that punch list. Did a lot of work on Friday, and we hope to hear responses on those within the coming week. I think Barry, you're now able to monitor the building, are you?
Yes.
Which gives us the opportunity to find out when things aren't working properly. And E&E is also able to access it remotely, so they're able typically to jump on things pretty quickly. There has been one training already completed, but there's training yet to do on the BMS system. And Barry and his team will have to schedule that with E&E once we've gone through all of the punch list items. We pushed the limit in terms of the air source heat pumps. They got drained on the 15th of October, and we had the rapid fluctuation in temperature during that time period. So I think we learned our lesson that they should probably be drained earlier, and allow time for the boilers to take over in terms of the reheat during early October.
And we've got another one this week as well. Another spike in temperatures followed by a cool back.
Yeah. I guess it's fortunate that the VRVs that are operating RTU number 2 can be either in cooling mode or heating mode, but we will be working with building maintenance to go through and recommission and do throughout the building, just to make sure that we're getting the proper airflow.
Yeah, we're gonna rebalance the entire building as soon as we convert the rest of the interior building to the updated building maintenance system, which the E&E is working on now.
And that conversion was part of Barry's budget, but running in parallel to this project. And Barry will have a similar opportunity at Broadmeadow, if need be. But you're transitioning to the EcoStruxure over at Broadmeadow as well.
We're gonna do that prior to the project, so when we put the 5 new units on top of the Broadmeadow, we get the plug-in right to the updated system.
And jumping a little bit to Broadmeadow, as you recall, we were not comfortable with the original bids, filed sub bids for the roofing. We went back and there was infrared aerial photography done, and then detailed look at some of those roof areas. And termination was Barry then laid out a series of patterns for cores just to test to see whether we were actually getting all the wet roofs, wet insulation that we saw in the thermal imaging, and unfortunately that is the case. So we are now looking at Gale Associates is updating a bulletin for the re-roofing of the 3 areas at Broadmeadow where the RTUs are placed. And that will be work that we're going to have to coordinate with the replacement of the RTUs. And some of that roof replacement work could spill over into the school year. We have not gone through the schedule details yet with CAM. We've alerted them to the rebid, but once we have those rebids to pre-qualified roofers, we'll have a better idea of what that cost is, and then what the added cost will be for the GC, which is CAM HVAC. CAM has been working through the submittals and other things, but they have not given us an invoice yet. So I'd expect that perhaps in the new year.
All right, any other questions or comments before we proceed to the invoices for the RTU project? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the invoice motions. First, the chair would move that the PVC approve the requisition for payment from Enterprise Equipment Company Incorporated for requisition number 12 through October 2024 in the amount of $26,248.50. That's coming out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Discussion on the motion and the invoice. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George, George, can you hear us? He's on mute. Okay. Erwin,
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
And we still have about 200,000, a little more than 200,000 in retainage. So I would expect their next invoice to decrease that retainage.
Very good. The second item is a pair of invoices from GGD Consulting Engineers. The first is for August 2024 services for Broadmeadow in the amount of $4,000 out of the designer budget. The second is for August 2024 services at Elliott in the amount of $2,363.16 out of the designer budget for a total of $6,363.16, again, out of the designer budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, George. Is there any discussion, questions, or comments with respect to the motion or the underlying invoices? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And finally, well, that brings us to the third and final invoice for, or set of invoices for the RTU budget, or topic, I should say. And that is in respect to NV5. The committee, the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice from NV5 for October Elliott commissioning in the amount of $579.92 out of the miscellaneous budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion and the invoice. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Erwin,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And I believe that concludes our invoices for the RTU replacement. Any other questions or comments about the project before we move on? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the next agenda item, which is PVC other business. So, Hank, I'll turn the microphone over to you.
Yeah, there are a variety of invoices that we will ask for approval on. Since I see Brandon is on, Brandon Creel from HughShot. We did receive the schematic design drawings from HughShot for the Newman Theater System upgrades. And I think that the only point that I'll make is that in looking at the various improvements and also the structural capacity of the roof over the theater, over the stage at Newman, it was determined that the existing structure could not handle the dead load of mechanized lifts for the lighting system. Brandon, I know you have a word for that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the roof structure was never built or designed in such a way for rigging. So the rigging the rigging that's existing really utilizes the excess capacity that we have. So we had TSU 1, 2, and 3, which get us to the benchmark, and then we had TSU 4, which was some extra bells and whistles. And in the TSU 4, one of the options was motorized rigging to make some of the components go up and down. There's additional weight that for the motors and the structure for the part that doesn't move, and we just don't have that capacity.
So the trade-off that we're looking at is getting an electric lift that would facilitate more rapid adjustment of the lighting that's up above the stage. I guess it's a rideable lift, would be also a lot less expensive than trying to upgrade the structure. Well, upgrading the structure would totally blow the budget. So we're not going to go there, but this seems to be an acceptable compromise. And we have further discussions on the detailed design, Brandon, scheduled this week. Is it this week? Yes.
Yes, Thursday.
Going through some more details related to that system and the lighting. And we will be coming back to the committee for a whole slew of proprietary items on this project, both to coordinate with some of the existing systems, but also on some of the theatrical sound and lighting equipment. We don't have those details yet, but we should by the end of DD.
Right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, George.
You said that this is going to be a rideable lift. So who's going to be riding the lift? These are people involved with the theater production?
Yes.
Or the lighting associated with it?
Yes, and I think, George, that brings up a broader discussion that Michael and maybe has come before the school committee, that once this upgrade is done, there's a recommendation that there be a person or persons who are theater managers and have the proper training to be able to operate and then train others.
This sounds like a very, very, in my opinion, a very serious issue of getting someone properly trained, making sure that person is there, and there aren't any potential for accidents or just improper use because they're not properly trained. It just sounds like a problem waiting to happen. That's my opinion. I don't know if anyone else shares that opinion.
Well, I think it's a fair concern, George, and I think that one of the things that will help us and will help Dan is, when we do this work and it's very clear and we have the kind of capacity that allows us to do this, that will, I think, help him and help us be able to prioritize that request as something that's not just merely, oh, we have a theater manager, isn't it wonderful, but it's an issue of safety. And that helps, I think, in a lot of ways.
And also in terms of safety, at this TSU upgrade, we're also looking at putting on a cable above the catwalks, which would provide with harnesses, would provide people with restraint. It's not going to stop somebody from falling, but it will restrain them from falling from those catwalks. And today, or during the SAC 1 work, we added additional railings up there, but then this would with proper training, provide people with restraints when they're operating the equipment up there. And some of the lighting we'll be looking at can be operated from below. Other pieces would have to be set and operated from up on those catwalks.
I don't feel a lot better.
Okay.
Well, I'll add that they have an existing lift on stage that they're currently using. That lift is due for inspection. It's also due for maintenance. So the new lift is that we're proposing is one that does not require any outriggers. While that may sound concerning, it's actually advantageous because there's less user error in getting it set up and configured. It's much more easy to navigate and move around. It has an extendable basket. And nonetheless, when we were considering motorized rigging, there's still the need that once the lights are up in the air, you still have a need to go up to the lights to get to them to focus. So that's a common misconception that, oh, if the lights can come down and go back up, we never have to get to them. And that's just not true. Lifts are much safer than ladders. But there's certainly, I would encourage the school district and any users of the system to go through a training program or earn certification in order to be able to qualified and able to operate a lift. And likewise, what Hank was saying for the fall restraint system on the catwalks, there's training that needs to happen in order for users to understand the risks and the safety and how to use the system properly, not just open the catwalk door and go do what you need to do.
I think there's a lot more discussion that has to take place here, but my last question, I don't want it to extend a long time, is who's now responsible to make sure that all that stuff happens, that the training's done for current lifts and for inspections and that sort of thing? Is there someone responsible for that now?
I defer to the school department.
We have a person who works for the Fine and Performing Arts Department who is somewhat responsible for a variety of things that have to do with the theaters, but not necessarily and specifically responsible for safety. We do have stipended people who work on each one of the productions, whose job it is to sort of oversee some of those things, but not, again, necessarily responsible for safety. We are and have, rather, the Fine and Performing Arts Director has submitted a budget request for this coming year to hire somebody whose job it would be to be specifically responsible for those spaces. And who would take that, presumably that additional duty on as well.
Okay. I do think that discussion has to take place offline here. And whoever's in charge needs to understand the liability that's potential here. And I'll leave that up to the school committee to discuss that with the administration. But just as a bystander, it just sounds like a problem waiting to happen.
Thank you.
I'm going to call on Erwin. Erwin, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm trying to conceptualize and visualize what the issue is. If I understand it, that the roof cannot support the motorized component that's needed, is it possible to affix the motorized equipment to some other structure rather than the roof that would still accomplish what it needs to accomplish? Unless I'm missing something here.
That's a fair question. So this concept of the motorized rigging, this was a bell or whistle, if you will. This was an option that was beyond the benchmark. So this wasn't a requirement. Hank was just communicating that option is not, we can't entertain it anymore because we don't have the capacity of the roof.
Right, but could it be affixed somewhere else and still accomplish what we want?
I think in order to do that, Erwin, we would have to put a superstructure underneath or intertwined with the existing structure and put in new footings and a whole bunch of other gymnastics.
Okay, I thought I was just asking in case there was something that might be more simplistic than that.
You're gonna, Erwin, you're gonna have to build an erector set of steel in there.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure that there wasn't something that we're missing.
I don't think there's anything easy here.
It's not a simple solution.
Any other questions or comments before we move on? All right, thank you very much, Brandon, for joining us tonight. And we do have one invoice, which we might as well take now on the theater and sound improvements project. And that is the invoice, the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Hugh Shot for October 2024 services in the amount of $15,000 out of the designer budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote, and Catherine, you might have to help me with I don't have the vote persons in front of me other than the committee itself, but I'll read the committee list off, and then anyone else who is a voting member who's here tonight. Okay, Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Irwin?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Catherine, do you know who else?
Anne, is she still here? Nope, she's not here.
Yes,
Oh
and
yeah, Anne's
Oh,
here.
Ann. Okay, Ann?
Aye.
Thank you. And the chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, very good. I think that takes care of theater and sound light improvements discussion for this evening. Thank you for a spirited discussion, and we'll see what lies ahead. But thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good night.
Okay. We will then proceed to the remaining invoices that are on the under the PVC other business. The first is the DPW complex. This is a Weston and Sampson invoice. So the chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Weston and Sampson for September 2024 services in the amount of $24,934.79 coming from the designer budget against $24,934.79. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Irwin. Discussion on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if
Yes,
just
go ahead, Bob.
briefly what's covered under those services?
those are their schematic design services, a portion of their schematic design services.
Okay, thanks.
And we will be coming back to the committee either later this month or early the December meeting. We'll be going through cost estimation on the schematic design, and we'll be talking about various options for ground source heat pumps versus air source heat pumps, solar, battery operation, so on and so forth.
Okay.
I didn't want to put that on the agenda until we had those numbers in hand.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. So we'll proceed then to the roll call vote on the pending motion regarding the Weston and Sampson invoice DPW complex. Stuart? Stuart? Roll call vote? Oh, thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Lynn? Lynn? Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. Bob?
Yes.
Thank you. George?
Aye.
Irwin?
Aye.
And anyone
Barry.
else?
Barry.
Oh,
Barry, I
Barry.
believe is-
Barry? Yeah.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay. The next item is something that has we've long been waiting for, and that's the closeout item for the public service complex and FS2, and as the welcome to Needham sign, which is at the Heights Fire Station along Highland Avenue near the Liberty Tree, quote unquote. And it's been, as I say, a long road to get here. Thank you for showing that, Hank. And it came out very, very well. I can speak for the Exchange Club. The Exchange Club is thrilled with it. I don't know. I'm sure the other service clubs are as well. I've not talked to anyone from the other clubs, but this was a collaborative effort. And just to give folks a brief history, The original sign was a collaboration of the Exchange Club and the and several other service organizations, namely the Rotary Club and the Women's Club, back in the early 2000s. And in fact, I think it might have been actually 06, 07 when I was president of the Exchange Club. The sign, of course, was removed during the construction project, and sadly, during the while the sign was in the custody and care of the DPW, well, something happened to it anyway, and the sign was no longer usable. So we found a new sign maker. The original sign maker was all signed up, and then for personal reasons had to back out. We got a new sign maker, Hassan Sign Company, and he did a magnificent job of replicating the original sign, and hopefully it will stay there for many, many years to come. So as I say, the Exchange Club is thrilled with it. So those are my historical comments on the sign. And any questions or comments before we proceed to the invoice?
I should note that it was greatly appreciated. The DPW streets and traffic team helped get it planted and installed and did their work on a Saturday, which was great.
Well, thank them very much for us. We really appreciate that. All right, so with that, we will proceed to the invoice. The chair would move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Hassan Sign Company for the Welcome to Needham sign pictured here in the amount of $12,650 even, coming out of the designer budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, George. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. And that's Stuart.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Irwin.
Aye.
And I think that's it. And then the chair votes aye.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that takes us to the last invoice for this evening. This is from Util Incorporated. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice from Util Incorporated in the amount of $5,390 and even. That's for September 2024 services. That's out of the architect's budget. Again, the amount is $5,390 even. Is there a second on the motion?
Yes.
Bob, thank you. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. I don't see any user agency representatives here, so it'll be the committee vote. Stuart.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
George.
Aye.
Irwin.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And that is it for invoices. I think, Hank, at this point, is there any new business for the committee before we wrap up?
I did share the overall project schedule as one of the items that I sent out. I don't know that we need to belabor it, but you had the committee had previously asked to update that. I can show it quickly on my screen and then we can close out. You should all have received this. With that vote, I've taken the public safety building off the top. Emery Grover, we are wrapping up, but there will be a 2-year warranty time frame on it. And when we get into heating season or cooling season again, we'll be doing some commissioning and closeout. And then the school master plan, we've already spoken about. I should point out that come April 2025, there will be several town meeting votes that will fund either design or construction stages of our various projects. So phase 2 of the DPW will be coming on board at that time. For funding, phase 1 construction funding isn't until October of 2025. The discussion we had, we'll be looking for construction funding on the Newman TSU at the April town meeting, and potentially design funding. Here it says Pollard, but we may pull Needham High School forward because we're doing all of the other study with the MSBA for the Pollard project. But that will evolve as things come together in the spring. The library, we will be looking for construction funding on phase 1 renovations. We will be looking for design funds for the CATH space utilization study. And Erwin, I know that you may have been coordinating with them, but their board has actually asked that they combine phase 1 and phase 2 together. And whether that can happen or not will be revealed when the budget comes out.
They have not talked to me about that.
They have not. Okay. Well, just in case you hear it, the
Okay.
Council on Aging voted, I think, at their last meeting to request design funds for both the kitchen and vestibule and the game and exercise room swap.
Okay.
And that'll be a point of discussion leading up to annual town meeting. And then these other ones are ifs, and Barry probably has a better idea than I do about those other ones. But we will have an active spring. And you should have all received this in your emails.
Yes.
So if we're finished with the agenda, I do have a question, if this is the right time to ask that. It's a quick one.
Yeah.
In the past, we've talked about having remote meetings, and we've had them. But I'm thinking, is the next meeting an opportunity to have an in-person meeting to discuss all the options regarding the DPW project?
Chile.
The DPW project, this is a fairly critical meeting in my estimation, in terms of determining the future direction of that project.
We are going to have our cost reconciliation meeting on the 13th, on Wednesday the 13th. And the
next DPW meeting will be talking about options. Am I correct in that?
We've already directed the team to move forward with the U-shaped option.
Yeah, okay.
And there are variations associated with whether we do the drive-through bay, which has an impact on the amount of blasting and rock removal, or whether all of the bays are drive-in and back out. There'll be an option for, we need to discuss about whether the project goes geothermal or air source heat pump. And we have preliminary test borings, but we don't have any deep borings yet, and we won't have them by the meeting on the 18th. But so the cost will be approximate. We should have information in terms of the costing of the force sewer main. They were doing some test borings up the road. which will also help determine how much rock removal is necessary in putting that line in. So we should have enough information to have a meeting on the 18th of this month, which would be 2 weeks from today.
So my question, I didn't want to go into all the details, but my question is it appropriate to think about that meeting with that DPW meeting as a time to have an in-person meeting? Is there a value in doing that? Or are all the decisions we need to make, can they all be made on our Zoom meeting? I guess is my question.
Well, I think I think you're right, George, that from the very beginning, we've always maintained that we would continue with the hybrid approach for as long as legally authorized to do so, but with the proviso that in the event of a of an important meeting in terms of kind of a milestone meeting where there might be some detail that would from which we would benefit having an in-person presence, we would make that decision or that determination in advance of a meeting. So I think your question is proper. I think you make a good observation, but I could go either way on this. I'm not sure. I've heard from what Hank was saying that we do need to meet in person, but if the committee would like to do so, that's fine too. So I'll leave it to the committee
No,
to.
I'm not casting a vote either way. I'm just questioning.
Yeah.
Is this the type of meeting that might be of value to have an in-person meeting?
Right.
Or can we really accomplish everything we need to in a Zoom meeting? I mean, I personally love sitting here in my sunroom and doing it from here, but I don't mind having a meeting where we can sit around the table and really hash out all the issues. And are we missing anything by doing it on Zoom is my question.
Yeah, I think, Hank, I would have to defer to you on that in terms of the content of the meeting and the committee. Again, I can go either way on that.
I would also need to check with Weston and Sampson and see if they could do the in-person meeting. I know with their travel schedules, sometimes they're zooming in from a greater distance. So I can check with them, and we could take Dan up on his offer and use a room at the Emery Grover building.
Are there any other thoughts from any of the committee members other than me? No one's talking. No one's talking.
Well,
either way.
I'm happy either way. I'm happy to meet on Zoom. I'm happy to meet in person.
Yeah, agree. Anyone else? Oh, Erwin.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything compelling to meet in person, but I'm not feeling strong either way.
Okay.
If in talking to Weston and Sampson, if there's an indication that they feel there's value in meeting in person, then I would say yes, but I'm not strongly in favor of that right now.
Then a suggestion, since I raised the subject, a suggestion might be just to have Hank talk to Weston and Sampson, and then have Hank make the decision if we think we can accomplish everything over Zoom. It's certainly more convenient, and I'll accept that as being fine. Just threw it on the table as something that we talked about before, but haven't done yet.
Okay. All right, Hank. So you and I can chat after you've spoken with Weston Sampson. We'll see what to do in terms of how we're gonna handle that. I think it would be nice to, if when we do eventually meet in person, it would be nice to take Dan up on his offer and meet at Emery Grover.
Yeah, the rooms are very, very nice there.
Yes. Yeah.
By then we'll probably need name badges. It's a joke.
Anything else before we wrap up? Okay, hearing then, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Someone like to make that motion?
Second,
Thank you, Erwin. Discussion on the motion? All right, roll call vote. Stuart? I think
Aye.
I've- Yeah, thank you. Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
I,
Erwin?
aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Happy election day, Eve, and take care.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right.
Hey, Erwin, actually, Erwin. Erwin drop, shoot, okay.